All right, let me know. Ooh, hello. Let me know if you guys can hear me. Silent Bob, I can't hear you. It's my buddy JC. Can you hear me now, JC?
It might take 15 to 20 seconds for them
To respond?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, maybe not.
There you go. All right, cool. Thanks, brother. Appreciate it. So, I'm here with an amazing Norma, and we're going to be talking about relationships. Right now, we're doing a little technical stuff, so bear with us, and it's kind of nice because then we build up a little bit of following right now. But we're going to talk about relationships, about extroverts and introverts. Lee, I hear a little bit like a sound or something.
Is that coming back through?
Yeah, it's coming back through. Is it back my phone or is it back from my
Well, maybe
microphone? Oh, the headphones. There you go. I hear something.
No, you shouldn't.
All right, check. 1 2 1 2. Check check. Oh, okay, that's better.
It's the headphones.
Yeah, it was the headphones. All right.
You could hear yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know why I'm not remembering my password.
If you guys have any questions out there about relationships, introverts and extroverts, how we relate to each other as men and women, anything like that, please ask any questions as we're going. I think you guys will find it pretty interesting, and all the topics we're going to be talking about. Today we're going to be talking about is our sexuality and how it plays a role in our personality. Also, the connection, voice, you're here, voice. Oh. I hear voices. Man, this is why I love my boy JC. Yes, I'm hearing voices, JC. Yeah. So, like I said, if you're just joining, just bear with us a couple seconds. We're getting a little bit technical stuff, but it's coming through loud and clear, so that's good. And yeah, I feel like I need to tell a joke. But yeah.
Who's out there? Who do you give a shout out to?
Give a shout out to, well, obviously I've been shouting out to JC, so JC, thanks you for joining. Thank you for everybody else who's joining.
Okay.
Lamont, appreciate it, brother. We'll be on for a couple seconds. What are you doing over there?
Trying to get it on my Facebook. I don't,
It's happening. It's not happening. It's going to happen. Trust me. Yay. All right.
Okay, we're in.
We're in. All right. Oh, not yet. We're not in yet. What time is
It's
it?
going to give a Hello, everyone. Welcome to the What's Your Vibe show, a place dedicated to bringing awareness toward a healthier emotional lifestyle through sharing stories, studies, techniques, and ancient wisdom. My name is Norma Cardenas, and I am your emotional wellness facilitator.
All right, we're on live? All right, cool.
I don't
Cool.
see it on my Facebook.
But we're on live, so
Yeah.
no, it's
Oh,
I'm
hey.
sure it's gonna be there. Hey, everybody, how you doing?
How you doing? Hey, welcome back. I have this is Norma Cardenas, and I'm here with Frank Bonos,
Hello, everybody. Good to be
Hey.
back.
Our-
Ready to talk?
my colleague and friend. We are we're following up today. What are we following up on? The secrets of successful relationships.
Big secrets, right? And nobody teaches us stuff so it makes it a secret.
Right? but we're revealing all our training stuff.
Yeah.
Is what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we're putting it on the basis of the introvert, extrovert, projected actually from the subconscious mind. So we've had some fun last time.
Yes.
You want to recap a little bit on that?
Oh, last time. What did we do?
So we have another video that we did a couple weeks ago. So you can go back on my Facebook feed and Frank's. And that was the first one where we ended up mentioning a bunch of stuff. We
talked a lot. And we hit a lot of topics. So if just go there if you can, just check it out. And we're going to be talking about a lot about that right now too. But just you'll see how we work from there. But yeah, I'm Frank and this is Miss Norma. We're going to just dive into everything. Yeah. And please, right now if you're on live feed with Facebook, ask us questions.
Yeah, send out a shout. We'll give you a shout out. Let me see. We can see now. We can see the feed, so we can do this.
There you go.
All right, cool. All right, so some of the stuff that we mentioned last time, right? Because we're going to get into the basically how to have a more successful relationship, and the things that we mentioned last time were the core priorities of introvert, extrovert, the physical traits that happen, the defense mode that happens, right?
Good defenses.
Right. So we're trying to give you more of the introvert, extrovert perspective, and why sometimes people repeat certain things. They might end up having a pattern that they're not noticing, and they pick in their partners. Why it might not work all the time.
Why do we project? Why is it that we assume what we're thinking, the other person is thinking the same thing?
Right. Because
of our priorities.
Everything we do, most things that we do, we think that everybody thinks like we do. Most people who are not really aware that this is happening. Do you know what I mean? So the other stuff that we were talking about was how to bring back the honeymoon stage.
Yes.
And I was telling Frank, we have to unpack this slowly. So what we're going to do today a little bit is we're going to go back to giving you a little bit more examples on the introvert and extrovert stuff. That way, when we get to the steps to take to, or the things you need to be aware of to bring the honeymoon stage back, when you feel like it's been a little bit disconnected, or you think you might be working your way out of a relationship, you might, jumpstart that all over again.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm reading this question here, but it's not making sense to me. JC asked a question. Thoughts on a invert? What?
Oh, probably an introvert, right?
Are you trying to say introvert?
Yeah.
I don't know, JC. Clarify on that. We'll come back to you.
Yeah.
The different things about what we talked about last time. Yeah, definitely about bringing back the honeymoon stage, bringing back the awareness. And when we're talking about honeymoon stage, meaning like, when you first meet somebody and you're just so into them, and you're both are acting like extroverts. You're super excited. You're both, your tails are wagging. And
you want to do all the same thing, so it feels like, oh my God, this is like the perfect person.
Right.
They do everything I want to do. But each one is actually took it a step higher just to it's kind of like a compromise, but it's not. It's just like they want to please the other person, so they'll do things like.
You said skiing last time. I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, like going, because I don't like skiing, so it's like I would go, and I did that with Tony when I was dating him.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's like, yeah, let's go skiing. I'm like, sure.
Okay, here's the question: was there a bunch of other people there too?
There was other people.
Yeah.
Too. But they all knew how to ski, and I didn't know how to ski. And I think there was just one other person in the group. And so I was doing crazy stuff like that. Like, I would not normally say yes.
Or sing karaoke.
Or maybe I would have, if I would have thought it out, I would have said, yes, let's go. Mm-hmm. But kind of taken over my ownership of myself to not actually get on the snow and ski. Or try to ski. Because I didn't ski. I fell. I just, it's like, no. I was doing the little, what do you call the bunny?
The bunny slope.
The bunny slope.
So it's like you're putting your feet together and going out.
Hilarious, but it was awful. It was. I'm like, I didn't want to be there doing that.
Well,
that's because I'm an introvert, and so is Frank. Frank's an introvert.
But I have, and we'll explain a little later, a very high extrovert defense.
Right.
So it kind of fools people in a way. But yeah.
And I think I'm working on my extrovert type of, because some people think that I'm an extrovert. So I think you're right. Like last
Do they
time
always want to hug you?
Yes. But I'm hugging back now, so I'm getting better. I'm getting better at being more,
You can smell the extroverts when they come to you, and you're like, they're gonna need a hug, aren't they? They're gonna need a hug. You know what I do? When I'll admit, when I'm in my head, I'm like, okay, wasn't ready for that hug or somebody that needed it. I'll give them a high five.
Yeah.
They'll feel validated, and it's not all this.
And the reason you're saying the high five is because it actually, you can still control your space. You're
still going, and it's arm's length.
Yeah.
It's arm's length. And a high five, works for me and works for them. But now that people know this about me, they're probably like, "You just high five me, don't?" You're gonna start doing that. It's like, well,
I know. As we're talking, we're giving out a little bit more tidbits about ourselves because that's the only way to do it. We have to kind of share our own experiences, right?
So I'm reading this right here, and getting older. So JC I guess he was trying to say is that what about people that are not introverts or not extroverts? They're a little of both. We call those somnambulist. They're in the middle between introvert and extroverts. And
that is a thing.
Oh, it's very a thing, and they're usually my intuitive people because they take in a lot of energy around them, meaning they're not necessarily being easily influenced. But they're a little more psychic. They're a little more aware of their surroundings. They're like in a heightened state of awareness. And sometimes it could be overwhelming because they become very, what do you call it?
Well, they're very sensitive to the environment.
Very sensitive to the environment.
Our somnambulist clients have expressed more things like they feel like out of place or it's
easily
just
triggered,
too much.
Easily triggered.
They have a lot of, you can carry more like OCD behavior because it's just nerve-wracking to be in an environment with so much download. People who are highly sensitive, they go through these things. They don't know why it's happening to them.
I see it also, it's they're constantly in fight or flight.
Yes. So
There's
can you imagine if you're in fight or flight all the time and then now with like the overload of the alerts that come on your phone or watching like CNN. It's the
end of the world.
The pictures and the ticker tape on the bottom, and it's just an overload of information.
Yeah.
So that's another. Those are some of the topics that we want to bring up later on in some shows because it's really the more you know about yourself. This is why we want to do this. This is because we want to encourage you to get to know more about yourself, so that you understand why the environment affects you the way it does, or how people maybe affect you the way they do, and maybe you feel a little disconnected from that, or why do you always feel a certain way, or how they may see you. And then if you start to be aware that some people are telling you certain things about yourself, you might want to stop and check to see, okay, what's that about?
Well, I also see it as that if, let's say you are dealing with somebody that's very, fight or flight or in a very somnambulist or somebody in the middle like that, you have to be very grounded yourself. Because you get very overwhelmed by it. Because it just comes at you, everything's an excitement or everything's a danger.
Right.
So you have to be careful.
And you've been around some people also, like sometimes when you're extroverts tended to want to share their emotions and their feelings, or they tend to gravitate to people who are introverts because they feel the way extroverts look at introverts, for the most part, is that they feel like they have it together because they seem to have it together. They don't.
That's a big word there.
They seem to have it together. Introverts seem to have it together because they're not so outwardly worried about how people think of them.
Yes.
Or, or jumping into like being part of a team, or they're not really outwardly concerned. But that also could be that they're so in a defense mode that they don't
say anything. Yeah. And a lot of it, they're in their heads. Right. They're quiet because they're overthinking or analyzing.
Right. So then extroverts, when they're looking for some kind of grounding person, a grounded person, the introverts seem to be the best way so that they can get it out. Sometimes we call that they dump on you, and they can leave you that whole situation can leave you very exhausted.
Yes.
When you work with people who, or that just constantly want to share everything and then dump, and then they feel better, and you start to take that in and hold it, but they feel better.
They've released
and then
it.
they've gone on their way and have a great day.
And now you're owning it.
Right, now you own it. And if
Uh-huh.
you don't have any tools or are aware that you can do this with people, but if you don't have a self-awareness of the self-care part about being the one to hold space with somebody and having them share that deeply, then you will become the holder of this vibration that is not very healthy. So that's why work can be overexhausted for a lot of introverts also, because the extrovert, as much as, they can complain about or say out loud about stuff, they're releasing and they are good to go. At the end of the day, they can get over it. But introverts tend to hold it in and not have very many tools to release. So
a lot of the introverts like to, not rock the boat. So they'll sit there and listen and not say, you know what, you should really tell somebody else. And my extroverts actually sometimes are kind of cool with that. Like, oh, I'm overwhelming them. I don't want to overwhelm them. And us introverts,
cool.
we forget,
Yeah.
okay, we have a voice, or we could say, hey, I get that you're, you want to talk about, let's say, work all the time, and it's bothering you and whatnot, but it could be overwhelming, and they don't want to just rock the boat. They don't want to make the person feel like they have to hold back the words. The thing is when the introvert, when they do speak, they usually have like a whole conversation already, and what they're going to say is already kind of like detailed and straight to the point. And yeah, my extroverts will be like, well, you don't share nothing, right? And then once they get that you don't share nothing, oh, that's a whole new conversation. And and we do share. Just the thing is that we don't share. We get more to the point than just talk.
Oh, you're talking about like in a couple form, like
in a couple form,
in
yeah.
a couple form, yeah.
Yeah.
When you have one that doesn't want to talk about it too much, then the other one does. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That gets interesting. So,
And a good part about this, and just so you know, it's not also about if you're male or female. You could be an introvert and be female.
oh yeah, it's not gender bias.
It's not gender
This
bias
is not a
at
gender
all.
bias type of thing.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of misconceptions, like, well, guys are just like that. But no, this is not gender bias. So that's why if you know more about yourself, you'll know what you are.
Yeah.
Which way your subconscious mind actually rules what you're doing in your behavior.
Yeah.
So if there's something that it's not that you're changing it, but that if you're aware of it, then the more you understand that that's how you're looked at or how you feel, then the more you know about yourself. And if you say, okay, I'm a extrovert, then if you naturally kind of find out that you attract the opposite, then you know that maybe the introvert will get overwhelmed when there's too much information going on at the same time, or too close into their space. It's not that they don't want you around. They don't. So it breaks down all that feeling like you're being rejected as an extrovert.
And that's what we're saying here about introverts and extroverts is this is to help, not only us remember this stuff, but
Right.
to help. And we want to share this information because it made our lives a lot easier.
Oh, yeah.
Dealing with, let's say, a person that is extrovert and knowing that they do need a touch. They do need reassurance in certain areas. They do need that moral support of a more emotional support. Before learning this stuff, I knew being an introvert, I just couldn't understand why my significant other would need that much more validation. It didn't make sense to me. I was like,
Right.
I'm here. I'm not leaving you. I'm like I want to be your supporter.
Uh-huh.
But they needed more of a connection. They needed more of just from me. My emotion, where I'm at, what am I thinking.
More of a validation
Yeah.
of that to confirm the relationship and the interest in the relationship.
That
right?
there is interest,
That
right?
there is interest. Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
This helped me. This training for the different the introvert extrovert. I mean, it helped me so much with the kids
Ah.
because I have 4 kids and all different. But for a while, I remember for a while there, I thought I was the crazy one. Because they made it seem like I'm the crazy one. So, but then I got to know the different personalities. So in our household, I would say what you say, because you know my household. Okay, so
Okay.
the four kids from the oldest to the youngest.
Well, let's explain what happened. So what I mean by that is this kind of, it's a theme. A lot of mothers and daughters have a lot of conflict because they're opposite of each other. If mom's an introvert, she values career, good education, like that, those components. If the daughter's the opposite, and the reason why she's the opposite, because we pick up her dad's personality.
Yeah. Well, or the second caretaker.
Or the second caretaker.
Yeah, the second caretaker, whether it be the grandmother, it doesn't matter. If it's a second caretaker that's taking time away from the primary caretaker, like as a child is growing up, it's a mother. The mother is bonding with that caretaker. That's food, that's security, that's everything, right?
Yes.
And as they grow up, they're noticing this other person coming into the room,
that's
getting
all the attention
of the primary caretaker. So then the child actually starts to say, okay, what is that person doing to
better
get
than me?
Better than me to get the attention. So they start to model that behavior, right, of the second caretaker. So there's core things in that caretaker that the child's going to pick up.
Yeah, and it's all about survival. So if you're a little kid, you don't like to be dropped, you don't like to be yelled at or loud noises, so that you pick up the secondary personality. And it doesn't matter if it's, it could be two women, and whoever the mother figure and whoever is the mother second, it's, it all, comes down to that factor. Yeah. So what I was saying, you're asking me what happened is that, right? They all picked up her opposite from who she is, personality. Then the opposite was an extrovert. So you dealing with an extrovert and your children being extroverts, you're a household full of extroverts and you're the introvert.
I'm the crazy one.
You're the crazy one, but you're outnumbered.
I'm the crazy one. And it's funny because I thought that the youngest one is more of an introvert. But as I see her growing up and blossoming, she it's just, I think, a matter of her defense was so high.
Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
It was so high on her defense that she came off like an introvert. But as I'm watching her grow and do things and getting out there, being more social, I don't know. I think she just has such a high defense on her.
Could be.
Yeah.
Well, and then that's another thing. I mean, our defenses are huge. I mean, I see defenses as our day-to-day. It's always on.
Yeah, it's always on.
Until you go home where you get to be yourself, it's like...
Right. So here, that's a hint. That's a hint too, right?
Yeah.
The hint is also like, to find out if you're really an introvert, like I am. Like I can go, like, for example, because a lot of you know that I am married to Congressman Tony Cardenas, and we've been in this political world for about 20 years now, and so going out to events and doing these things, like Tony can do this and he can do it all night, but there's time. I'm like, okay, I can't go to the next one. I'm going to go back, cuddle up, get in my pajamas. And,
Cocoon.
So that's the real me.
Yeah.
Like I like to rejuvenate like that. And Tony is actually the opposite. Even though he comes off like an introvert,
right.
That I think is his defense and his engineering and his rearing and his a lot of layers to us. So this is how. But when you see that, if I'm on a project at home and I'm doing something, or God forbid we're cleaning the garage, it's only a certain amount of time that I have with my extroverts because they're like, this is driving me crazy. We got to go out and do something else. And that's how they rejuvenate. And I'm like, no, I need to finish this task.
Exactly. And I find it very interesting. I mean, okay, so me being more of an introvert, when I get my extroverts and they want to go out continuously, and I'm like, but wait, like I need to just a little downtime. I need to just recuperate. But I just, it's hard, and I love my extroverts. I mean, I love the fact that they are like this, okay? Because it's my opposite, and it gets me out of my little bubble, right? Like, oh yeah, we haven't been out, we haven't done something.
It balances us out. We need you. We need the extroverts.
Yeah, thank you. But I just find it interesting. Like downtime means downtime, to rejuvenate and be able to do more with a lot of people. And for them, it's completely opposite.
And so since we only have an introvert perspective. We just can't fathom the thought why you would do that, but okay.
I mean, I could get it because if you have good people around you and they value you or they give you really good insight, this is why it's so important. What's your what did I send you the other day? Tell me your tribe and that's your vibe or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Like you have good core people, then it will take you to the next level. Especially if you like you're an extrovert and you like all that talking feedback, then you're like golden.
Yeah.
I know for me being an introvert, I sometimes have to go, okay, be an extrovert. I gotta like get myself out there.
And that's the thing is that being an introvert, you can really get into hermit mode if you don't work on it.
If you're not aware of it.
Yeah, if you're not aware of it. So it's not a healthy thing. So that's why, like I'm doing this so I can be out there a little bit more.
And then, that's part
and work on my extrovert talent, traits that I do have somewhere.
But also respect your introvert traits, that you do need those downtimes, that you need it.
Yeah.
I know I do for sure. Go in my little cave and just like, okay, breathe,
Yeah. And, that's the other thing. So there's so many layers to us. When I mentioned that is that part, like, I mean, I can only give you my perspective because saying yes. I was such a yes person, pleasing everybody else. And then it just becomes, bottled up. And I'm like, I don't want to go do this. I don't want to do this stuff. So, now that I'm in my 50s and I'm a grown-ass woman, I'm going to take control of my time.
You go, Norma. You tell everybody.
And thank God it's been easier now to be able to go and do some stuff. Like, we did some great stuff. I was in D.C., and we went to Cambridge, and Tony had this huge fundraiser with Bullpack. And, I loved the vibe that has been cultivating in those events, right? So it actually, I did really good. I think I did really good. I hung out. I normally would
were you
go
there
back
to the end?
Yes, I was at the end.
That's what I wanted to hear.
I did. And that is the part that I have to practice. I really do have to practice that because I won't have a drink. I won't, stay till the end because I'm feeling a little tired. And Tony knows now, like he's like, hey, like he'll touch me a little bit and it's like, hey, how you doing? Blah, blah, blah,
bring her back, right?
Yeah,
and actually that's a great thing. I know for a fact that works, and this isn't be more gender, is if touch for a woman is a lot. It's a big deal. It gets you out of your brain and back to your body.
Right. Oh, like you mean touch. For the extroverts? Yeah.
So it's kind of powerful. But one thing that you might mention that I know I have a tendency of doing is when I'm done, I'm done.
I know.
Like I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. Peace. I don't care what you did. I'm just out, and I'm like, don't do that. Right. You gotta calm down. You gotta leave, nicely.
Yeah.
But if I'm tired of something, I'm just done. I'm out.
Yeah, and your self-care. That's where the self-care habits need to come back in, and as long as you're aware of it. So I'm really aware now that I do cut it short, or I lose out on experiences because I need to find justifications to why I'm going to go dress up or why we're going to make a 3-hour trip, or I was so lazy about it.
Yeah. Well, you're hearing us talk about extroverts and introverts, and if you're just joining us, it's all about how we perceive the world and how we are. Now, the cool thing is there's priorities to these things. All right, so listen to this and see where you land. You want to do the introverts, and I'll do the extroverts.
Okay.
All right. Cool.
Okay. So samples of an introvert. Okay, and we're talking about the subconscious from the subconscious mind. Okay, because really these there's what did I call them? I think they're called the sexual personality.
Sexuality.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the sexual personality, a behavior acted out and projected from the subconscious mind. Okay, so this is where we're coming from when we say introvert and extrovert. All right, so we put some stuff down on reminding us on the samples for the introvert and extrovert. So I'm going to do the introvert. The introvert, for the main part, they're head ruled behavior.
Super.
So introverts are in their head a lot. They're constantly thinking. If your approach is something, especially if you're approached by an extrovert, they're spontaneous. The introverts are very cautious about that. they analyze everything. So you're going to get a really kind of a delayed response from if you're going to spontaneously want to change up something. I know for me, it's like, oh, wait a minute, I think I have some stuff I need to do. So I need to think about whether I'm going to change from right now to this in an hour. Do you know what I'm saying? So we were talking about this earlier about, what did you say? You put a 5-second rule on a decision?
Yeah. Well, okay, so with my clients, if I get an extrovert, I say, you got to do the person, usually their significant other or somebody they're dealing with, they're around them, or introverts. If you're going to ask a question, count to 5 or 10 seconds, or just wait longer, okay?
Yeah, to an introvert.
To an introvert. If you're asking an introvert a question, the reason being is because the reason why they're not responding right away is because they're trying to give you the best answer. If you give more than one question, like let's say if you ask a question, what's the color blue? And then they're like, and then you go, well, the color of the sky, does that matter? And then you give them more questions.
No, it's going to take longer for an answer, okay?
A longer answer, or you're like, oh God.
Don't overload. Don't overload them.
You're going to overload them.
Yeah.
So be aware of that, okay?
Then that's one of the head ruled behavior of an extrovert. An introvert, sorry.
Definitely. Shout out to 445.
Right. Because they tend to be logical
Yes.
and analytical. So that's why they're analyzing everything that they receive in information. And I do that. I do. It's very rare to be spontaneous because I feel awkward to be spontaneous. I love to watch everybody else be spontaneous, and then I'll support that. On my own terms, but I support it. So.
Yeah. No, I'm actually okay with it. I could be spontaneous. I know that for a fact. I think it's because it's so familiar to me.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know why, but I know I am.
I'm in practice.
You're in practice.
I'm in practice. This is all in practice, okay?
Yeah. But it's also my defense. Like, I know being
This is
spontaneous.
true. That's true.
I got a high extrovert defense.
I don't have very much high extrovert defense. I don't think so.
This is why I can relate to my extroverts. Like I do have.
This is why you deal with more communication.
Yeah. Because I got it wrong for such a long time.
So the introverts, they'll go priorities. One of the main priorities, one of the main priorities that an introvert has, really goes to career and work. They're working. Yes. They'll pick work over family. They'll pick work over their hobby. But hobbies are second, actually, I think, right, on the introverts?
Hobbies are a little lower on the totem pole. But usually careers,
So I already mentioned that introverts are not very comfortable with their bodies, so they're rarely spontaneous for some people, because you actually seem to get that down pretty well.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I do. Well, to a point. Sometimes I'm just like, what happened? But yeah, I could be spontaneous.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that also introverts need more. The more information I have about something, the more comfortable I'm feeling. So like with this, I can actually be more comfortable to be on the air in any capacity because we're talking about things that I learned.
And very familiar to you.
Yeah. So it's really hard to do interviews when I know some of it, but I'm not in control of what the questions are going to be shot at with me. So that's why I get nervous and I kind of like,
I can see it,
Do you know what I'm saying?
No, you weren't prepared.
Because introverts also have a control problem.
Oh, the magical word, control.
Control.
They like to control everything.
Because we're all in our head,
Super.
Yeah, and then personal space, less touchy-feely.
Mm-hmm.
So we're less touchy-feely on the norm. I have become more touchy-feely, I think. I think, anyways. But other than that, let's see, what else? Oh, the language used. The language used with introverts tend to be a little bit more blunt. So,
language.
Like if
short and direct.
If you're because the introverts, okay, so you have, for the most part, you will have the opposite of you as a partner. So that stuff when you're in a conversation with maybe your partner or even a friend. If you're an introvert and you have an extrovert friend and you're talking about something, and then they say, but that's what you said, and then the other person's like, well, that's not what I meant. It's like the conversation gets all,
it gets all distorted.
Distorted because you're taking in information differently from your partner.
Yeah.
The introvert takes information in differently and also delivers it a little bit more bluntly. So
You know, and like for me, sometimes, you know, once again, I think I'm funny, and I'll start a joke in my head somehow, and then when it comes out, it does not make sense whatsoever.
Right.
And people are like, "Where'd you get that from?" That, and then I explain it. They're like, "Oh yeah, that is funny." Yeah, I guess sarcasm. I don't know what it is. It doesn't work for me.
Hey, you guys, we're on Facebook. And so post anything you want on there while we're talking. If
Yes,
it comes
please.
up, if you're an introvert or extrovert. I actually posted a question, are you an introvert or an extrovert? And I got a couple of, I got one introvert, Patty, who says she's an introvert. And then mostly an introvert from Lucy, but tends to want some quiet time. That's a good one to bring up. So
Yeah.
so Lucy says she's mostly an introvert, but on very busy weeks, I tend to want some quiet time
Mm-hmm.
and become a hermit for a couple of days to recoup. So do you think that maybe she's on a defense of an extrovert defense?
I think how can I put this? It sounds like her core is introvert, but she's at she. I always say that whatever she does in life, she loves her job, and so for her to be more successful, she becomes more extrovert.
Right. Oh, and she is passionate about her job.
Okay, yeah. So
Yeah.
and
she works with a lot of people.
and here's this little insight that I've noticed: if an introvert, if their job is not doing well, or their career is not doing well, they don't in the job that they love, they are miserable.
The introvert.
The introvert, super miserable. Like if they're not doing well in their job, everything just gets all distorted and shut down.
Okay.
Yeah.
What have you found the solutions for that? They will leave it, right? They're not really, introverts are not that connected to, if they don't love it, they can leave it.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
have that kind of
Unless they have
emotional attachment to.
it's like some other reasons of like, maybe it's a family business, or there's like deeper layers to it. But if the thing is they have to find out what is it they love, and that's very important.
Right.
And then you got to go through that soul searching of but just so you know, whatever you love will go better with a introvert aspect. So whatever career, you don't want to be, I don't know, a clown juggling and trying to entertain everybody if you're an introvert,
Right.
You want some career that's more on a one-on-one basis. Or even like what I find interesting too for kids, if they're more introvert, they do better at like tennis, golf, because it's a one-on-one competition. If they're extrovert, they do better at basketball, football,
Yeah.
more interaction.
They like the group.
Yeah, they like the group.
And that's the best way to find out, like when
Yes.
you're, like your children, you go into a classroom, they could be first graders. First graders pretty much, you can tell already.
Yeah.
You go in there, and it's like you've seen it. You walk into a classroom, and you can tell which ones are all the chatty ones. Especially if a new parent comes into the room, they'll come up to you and say hello.
This is true.
While your child's like at his desk or doing whatever. Or it could be the opposite. Like your child's the one checking in on everybody and saying hello and stuff like that. So that kind of gives you an idea what they're going to be, what they are already, which is the introvert or extrovert.
Yes.
And then the more you know about yourself, like I said, then you know how to communicate. This is really, at the end of the day, is about communication, right? Right. So what else? Do you want to do the
Was that all of it?
extrovert? Well,
Blunt?
except for the
Right.
blunt,
Blunt
because we
language.
talked about how introverts can deliver information a little more bluntly, so it kind of hurts, the extroverts.
Yeah. They're. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 'cause
I know I've done it.
last time I mentioned this was how when my kids, they, I would be a little bit more blunt, and it's like all they wanted was some more validation, like, yeah, it's okay, and I thought I was doing that, but no, it's like, Mom, you don't care, blah. It's like, okay, whatever.
What it is you're probably like trying to get a solution.
I am solution oriented, so
You
I
were
want to
trying to
get
do
right
is-
to let's get right to the solution. What can we do
Right.
about this?
I get everything, but let's
Yeah.
get down to the solution, and,
Yeah.
and that's the opposite of
It doesn't
them.
translate well.
No, it doesn't. I just learned to bite
have
my
to-
tongue a little bit.
Yeah.
And I know I have to hear it. I know
Right.
for a
It's
fact.
not I don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
but it's like, okay, so I want to fix everything, and that was not a good way to do all
And then
that.
this is what we're talking about. This is not gender based because
Right.
you would say that men always want to fix everything. I say yes to a certain extent, but there's some men just would rather just pay somebody to do it, you know.
Uh-huh.
But on the introvert and extrovert, there's a certainness that it doesn't matter if you're male or female. So yeah, no, definitely.
You have to.
Yeah. So I guess
Renee says, "I hear you, Norma. Get to the solution." Laugh out loud. Yeah, but you know it doesn't always work well. You have kids too. You have kids. You know, you're the crazy one. Like we always want to be. They act like we're.
Some people say it's a more of a
also.
masculine energy that you're projecting. I say yes. Is it more that if you're a woman, you're projecting more masculine? But the thing is it depends on where you are in life, or if you're comfortable with it. If you're more introvert woman, that's what you're gonna have. The good thing is that you can tap, and women have this ability to go back and forth really easily, like the left brain, right brain, left brain, right brain. So you guys could kind of see it more easier than men. I've noticed. Like
Probably because we have to do it.
Oh, you have the balance for
but
sure.
Now, having the 4 kids, I had to figure that out the hard way. But yeah.
Wow, 4 kids.
And because they're all a little on the extrovert side, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It's interesting because my oldest, she split the time between my ex-husband and us, and her husband mentioned one day that he can see clearly how much of each side she got. And so then it would be double the... But she still would have to have, like, the core, right? Introvert, extrovert. And maybe her defense is high.
The one thing that I know for a fact is that it all depends on what the child saw,
Right.
And
so then compared to the youngest one who, because of the way it goes and Tony not being at home, it could even be that Vanessa ended up being the second caretaker for the youngest one.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because she was home more.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. So those are all kinds of things that we can go through.
Wait, here. I need to talk about extroverts here. All right.
Oh, yeah, talk about extroverts.
So let's talk about extroverts. My beautiful extroverts. I love you guys. Extroverts are very heart-driven, right? Since they're very heart-driven, they're very connected to their bodies. That heart-driven, they do everything. They got their heart on their sleeves. Is that the expression?
Yeah,
that's the expression,
they
right?
They wear their heart,
emotions,
their
emotions. Yeah. It's out there for people to see and hear, right? And it's their way of communicating and connecting to the world. They need to show, express everything. So being that heart-driven, it's about emotion. It's about connection. And that's good, That's the opposite of an introvert, and that connection is very beautiful, actually. When it's let's say managed or connected well, especially with the language. So the second part here is emotionally ruled. Their emotions do rule their lives. If they're feeling down, they're feeling down, and they make sure you know it. If they're feeling happy, they make sure you know it. They're driven whatever in their situation. I would say I like asking my introverts, what do they feel about another person? Especially like, let's say, me being an introvert, I'm looking for logic, I'm looking for reason. Being a hypnotherapist, I'm looking at, if they're twitching or the way they're sitting or the language that we're using, but that's my check system. I've noticed my extroverts, they go off of like the intuition, how did that person make them feel? Yeah. So they're really emotional driven, and that if you can produce
highly sensitive to their environment.
Highly sensitive to the environment. Yeah. They're very that emotional awareness is very key to them. And it's pretty much, I would say, like up there to the number ones of what rules them. There's also a lot of sexuality stuff that really rules them too. But
that gives you like organizing, like big group stuff. Yeah. They're really good to do that.
Oh, they want their big groups.
Yeah, and it's good. They feed off of that, so it's really cool to watch my friends and family members just like they get on something and they can do it out loud, and that's really cool. Yeah. So they're really great teachers for that. And I'm, like I said, it just balances us out. So what's funny is that for a long time, like I'm seemed like I've got it together to my extrovert people, and I'm like, what do I got together? I'm making so many mistakes. I don't understand. But it's because I'm just
quiet and calm.
I'm a little quieter about it. Yeah. So that's why people see me a certain way, And so what I've learned with my extrovert groups around me is to be able to, share a little bit more
Yeah.
and be more comfortable just doing things more out loud.
So I'm getting a lot of questions here.
Go for it.
Narita and JC, you guys are asking about ambiverts, right? I call them synonymous, but ambiverts, you're saying they're a little bit of both. Here's a great question you can ask yourself. If you want to ask yourself, if you're more introvert extrovert, you have to ask yourself: was my dad an extrovert or my dad an introvert?
Oh yeah.
Or the secondary,
This will
whoever
give
the
you a
secondary
hint
is,
of
right?
where
I'm
you
talking
picked
about
it up.
traditional family, and non-traditional is just whoever the secondary was, whoever mom catered to also. Okay, so once you know that, that would help you. Also, a good question I love asking there. It's really cool. Ask yourself, in all the relationships you ever had, right? All of them, when they're going towards the end, like getting rocky. Do you run away and say, you know what, I need to think this through, give me some time? Or do you like, hey, we need to talk about this. We need to get this taken care of right now.
Yeah, which one are you?
Which one are you? That's a good question to find out, because my introverts will be like, hey, I need to work. I need to think this through. Give me a day or two. And my
There's a pattern
extroverts,
going on.
my extroverts will be like, no. I need to get over this. I need to move on. Da, 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 da. And it's also how an introvert and extrovert will deal with, like, let's say, a breakup.
Yeah,
An
and how long it takes for that relationship to kind of be okay. Like the introverts, they can cut it off really easy.
But
And
they
so-
hold it longer.
Yeah, but the extroverts will kind of keep wanting to figure out a solution, and then they end up blaming themselves, or and they go through this whole other process, right?
Yeah. And it's that, so definitely the introverts will, they know how to cut it off and move on.
Because they remember, they're the ones who want to be farther away from any emotion.
Yeah.
So they rather just like be in their head. Okay, that's enough. Let's just cut this off and
Let's move on.
Let's move on.
But the thing is it's nothing gets cut off. It just gets suppressed.
Yeah, it gets suppressed.
And then 5 years later, I miss her. Where is she? And it took you 5 years. It just what we do. It is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so emotionally ruled. This is my extroverts. Okay, this is let's say their priorities, but this is things that they're motivated by. Okay, very motivated by relationships. It's one of their overall priorities. Relationships is like a big key for them. If the relationships aren't doing well, they're not doing well. They're not doing well in their career. They're not doing well in anywhere else. Until they resolve the problem with the relationship, they'll do better. So my introverts, just so you know, if your extrovert doesn't feel connected to you, they won't be doing good at work. They won't be, and you prioritize work. So you'll wonder like why they're not going to work, or why they're feeling down. So just my introverts, support them, whatever they need. Make sure they feel that the relationship is solid. My extroverts need a solid relationship in order to be joyful, or be happier in life. So my introverts, you're the ground. You got to be like the ground.
You're the ground.
You're the supporter, right? You're the how do you build a house? You're going to be the foundation.
The foundation.
Okay, but you need to know how to support the rest of the house, which is the extrovert.
Right. And these are tools that actually, especially in leadership, if you are the head of a company, or you are in, if you have any employees under you, if you knew these tools, the more you know about yourself, and you understand, that why in a meeting you'll have one that wants to speak out more than others, and some don't, but they still deliver the work the way you want it.
Yeah.
But also how the communication might get stuck between the employees. And that could be a big part of it, is that they don't know that the delivery of information, or how they're receiving information could be very different. So these kinds of conversations are really good to have, like in the professional development world.
Oh, definitely. I do a lot of work with communication in the workforce, and how to, if normally your bosses are introverts, and you really gotta, if you're gonna ask them a question, you gotta hold and wait and hear them out. Okay. The other thing is that because my extroverts are more emotional driven, you want to constantly want to talk about your emotion and validate your emotions, or what's going on with it, how do you feel and stuff like that, which is great. But just my extroverts, so you're dealing with an introvert. If you're going to ask them a question, wait.
Just wait for an answer.
Wait for an answer.
And don't take, and the
Don't
hard
take it
part
personal.
is, the hard part is like, either one can't take it personal.
Yes.
It's but it only comes with awareness and practice.
Yes.
So this is all we want to share this information so that you become more aware that that might actually be the case right now in your life right now. And if you are more aware that the other person is probably taking in the information differently, then you'll have a little bit more compassion for that situation.
And you won't say things
right?
like, "Oh, he's crazy," or "Oh, she's crazy."
Yeah.
You'll be like, "Oh,
Yeah.
she's being an introvert," or "He's being an introvert right now." Or, and so what I explain with my extroverts will, like, if they needed to tell you something about Dodger Stadium, they're actually going to talk to you about San Francisco first.
Oh, the introverts?
Yeah, my extroverts.
Oh, the
So meaning they tell you the whole to give you the big picture, and my introverts, so you know, they're actually talking and thinking at the same time.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So that's my extroverts. So just so you know, when you get an introvert says, "Get to the point already," it's not that they're not trying to value you. It's just that you're giving them way too much information.
Or how about just watching and observing, and if the other person takes a deep breath,
Yeah, they feel like
they're overwhelmed
overload.
already or
Yeah.
overloaded with information.
So try to get it down to the point, right? Try to
Yeah.
get the information more direct. But the way I tell my extroverts to do this when they're talking is first get to the point, but then explain everything afterwards.
Yeah.
My introverts will greatly appreciate it because now they know what they need to focus on.
Yeah.
Everything else is like, you have the cake and now you have the frosting
Right.
on it. Now you have the detail
Right.
to it. So it's going to help them in your relationship so much more.
And I know that you can't really tell everybody that,
No.
like get to the point.
No,
but,
oh my God.
But at least if, like for instance,
But take it upon yourself.
right. So, well,
That's
I had to, I live with an engineer. So he's very statistic oriented and
Yeah,
detail oriented
yes.
in his conversations. And I am more like a newspaper who gives you everything in the first few sentences and then explains the rest.
Good.
So I want the point. Okay, so get to the point, and then we'll talk about all this other stuff. And so then I would deliver that information very bluntly,
But-
so it didn't always work well.
When you're an extrovert, like when somebody tells you to get to the point, you don't feel like you're, I say valid, but also you don't feel that people will want to care about you because they're not hearing you.
Yeah. Oh,
So
you mean for the extroverts?
For extroverts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the
So an
extroverts.
extrovert will really take that personal.
Oh,
So my
big
introverts,
time.
be careful when you say get to the point
Yeah.
because it's really a big,
I know you feel like you wanted to get to the point, but then that's where, because you know yourself, is what we're trying to say is like you are responsible for that part, right? So this is part of how communication really works. So the more you know about yourself, and that's how you take in information, and those feelings come up, and maybe you don't want to spend so much time on it, then you start understanding how other people communicate, and sometimes you can pick and choose whether you're gonna be around. If it's overwhelming for an introvert, right, then I think that's when you start being more aware that some people just drain you because they don't have
Yes.
anywhere else to go.
yeah.
And you can choose.
Yeah.
You can choose to be.
Well, one thing that I've learned with my extroverts
little bit more
for
finesse.
myself is that the more I listen, the more they'll find their own resolution. They'll
all the
solve-
time. It happens all the
It happens
time.
all the time. But it's sometimes
They
I'm a
answer
little.
their own questions.
But you gotta forgive me when I listen to an extrovert. Like
Mm-hmm.
I try to get everything. Okay, they said this or she
Mm-hmm.
said that, and it's a car that was blue, and then I try to download as much as I can. But there gets a point I'm like,
Right.
take that deep breath.
And we're
So-
very biased. We're both introverts. So it might sound like we're beating up on,
We're not.
on extroverts, but
We're-
we're not. Because we need you. We need
Yeah.
the extroverts around us
And
so
then
that we
you
can
know,
balance out.
Yeah, and I'm going
learn.
to talk bad about my lovely introverts is that we get it to the point a little too much because what comes out sometimes is just very rude. You're like, damn, do you even like me? And it comes out very, very harsh. So introverts, you got to say what's on your mind, because not everybody can read your mind. Okay, maybe another introvert might be able to like figure it out, but it's a little difficult. So extroverts, please say
Yeah.
what you're thinking because it could be overwhelming to others.
Be nice.
Oh yeah, be nice.
Be
And
nice.
then if you catch it, say, "Oh my God, it's not what I was trying to say. Is thank you, please, may I have another, but let's do this now, not do it now."
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah.
Oh, that's the other
extroverts.
thing, because this actually will go into like part of taking in information differently.
Mm-hmm.
You can be one that takes information in very literal, and the other information taken in can be very inferred.
Yes.
So you have that literal that's where that goes back to like, well, you said this.
Uh-huh.
And it's like, well, no, that's not what I meant.
Exactly.
You know? And so then you have the two different ways of taking in information. So the more you know about this,
It helps so much
about
in your
yourself,
life.
then
Or dealing with others, you know.
Yeah.
Because you're, like I think I said last time, was just, you're always going to be around with people. You
Yeah.
might as well figure them out.
yeah.
And this is one of the ways to figure them out.
So when, like for instance, speaking of the taking in information stuff,
Uh-huh.
how about?
I'm laughing because JC says they just need a thicker skin. Suck it up, Buttercup. I think he's talking about my extroverts. Okay.
So he's an introvert.
JC,
Like, suck it up.
He could be an extrovert, but I've seen him be an introvert too. So he's kind of in the middle. Yeah.
You can turn it on and off.
Yeah.
Right now, you're being an introvert.
Yeah, he's being an introvert. Yeah.
Right. So
So my physicals, my extroverts, they definitely are usually more the how you say, they jump into things. They are more expressive. They'll take the first action. But the thing is I've noticed, like even myself, I'm a naturally introvert, okay, but if I'm usually attracting somebody that's an introvert defense and a extrovert core.
Wait, say that again.
I'm not even talking right anymore. Introvert defense, meaning they defend themselves by being introvert, right? Kind of analyzing everything, but their core is actually extrovert. The thing is like let's say I was dating somebody and they're just being super analytical and introvert, and they don't do nothing. My extrovert comes out. And I'll be the spontaneous one. I'll be the one that's because that's my defense. Like, oh, something's wrong here. We're not talking. We're not hanging out. You know, like and then I'm like, boom, I'll do something crazy. Like, and then since they have a high introvert defense, they're like, holy crap, what is this?
Right.
It just happened.
Right.
Yeah. So sometimes I have to be like, oh, don't be an extrovert right now. Just hold it back. Let them be in their introvert defense. You know, it's okay. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a management tool.
It is.
But it doesn't have to be so difficult. You know, you can have fun with this, but observing your surroundings and the people that you communicate all the time with, and maybe even, you know, hone in on that one person that, why do I feel this way every time I'm with this person, whether it be at work or at school or, you know. Reactions.
Yeah.
It might be that. You might just be picking up like, oh, God, this person is so extrovert.
Yes.
It might be that you feel overwhelmed, exhausted, whatever that is. Or it could be that the extrovert says, God, this person is just not sharing and not talking and not
What's wrong? Did I offend
participating?
them? You know?
Yeah.
That could be definitely a bit much.
Yeah.
On both ends, you know, what we assume about others is never the right thing. But the one thing that I it's like a saying, I think, or that I enjoy is when you can never change how people think. You can only change how you react to them. And this is basically what we're talking about.
Right.
You know, being a more natural introvert or being more a natural extrovert, you had those other opposites around you. You got to know how to react to them. Right. Especially if they're touching you a lot. You know, that's my favorite thing.
Or not
touching you at all. Right. You know?
Or not. Yeah.
And introverts, if an extrovert's touching you a lot, it's because you're not connected to them. They're touching you because they're trying to pull you in the conversation.
Yeah.
That's a really good key, by the way. Just to give you a little tidbit. And also my extroverts, if they're not talking to you, it doesn't mean they're not listening.
Right. Yeah. Right. So ultimately, you are responsible for the vibe you bring into the room.
Definitely.
You know, and that's what we wanted to share. What's
We
that?
got 4 minutes.
4 minutes?
Yeah.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have?
I think that's it.
We did a lot of that, right?
Yeah, we kind of.
Okay, so what are we going to do next time? We need to go
Are we
into
going to do this? The cycle.
The cycle.
Bringing
Okay,
back
so.
Oh, this was a big juicy one, by the way. This is the whole sexuality stuff.
I don't know if we should do it next because I think we still need one more piece.
Is that like our final one there? No.
I think we should. Well, if we do the bringing back the honeymoon stage, okay,
yes.
type of thing. If you have any questions, you want to send over to info@whatsyourvibeshow.com and also to Frank Bonos' Facebook page or his website. What's your website?
frankw.banos@findinglifescompass.com. So that's my email. My website is Finding Life's Compass. And you could also on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook. Anyway, send me a text. You know, just we want to hear more questions. And,
Yeah, we want to make this interactive.
it very
So we're trying to do this so we could do live on Facebook so we can get more feedback. So all your responses, we want to be able to shout out to you guys and stuff. So don't be afraid to, just
So for next time, definitely,
something
we'll
in.
be taking more questions, and hopefully we get more good answers for you. Especially
Right.
if it comes down to relationship stuff, or not necessarily your significant other, but also coworkers and how to work with them, how to deal with them. There's a whole lot of a whole lot we could talk about. But there is a thing about cycles. Might talk in the future, and that's how let's say an introvert rejuvenates, and how they could be back into their bodies again, and not try to reject.
We're going to talk about sex, guys. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about sex, Frank.
Oh yeah, we got to wake them up somehow.
Yeah,
right?
we're going to talk about sex
Like,
on the how to bring the honeymoon stage back. It includes sex, and includes how to understand why you might have less and less and less of it, and that's what we're going to try to.
Or who likes to be on top and who likes to be on bottom.
You're going to give away.
Get you
You're going to
going.
give away too much.
I don't know. I didn't say who likes to be on top and likes to be on bottom.
This is not a gender bias thing either.
No,
by
it
the
isn't.
way.
Oh my God, it isn't. Sorry, I just went to work. All right, bring it back.
Okay,
All
so
right,
we're getting the signal. It's time to get off already, but we're glad that we did this. We're having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
We want your questions. Just, share. If you want to do it anonymously, you can send your question over to info@whatsyourvibeshow.com.
Ooh,
All right?
feedback.
Ooh, feedback. I think we're good.
Okay, cool.
I think we're good.
Okay, we're good.
We're going to talk about sex next time.
Peace.
Peace.